everybody, welcome to my channel. My name's Megan. The whole point of my channel is to compare books I've read to their on-screen adaptations, so I'm super excited about this episode. It's something I've never done before. I'm comparing the Rick Riordan's The Lightning Thief to the musical adaptation, which I didn't even know was a thing until I was like searching online trying to find the movie for last episode, because last week I did the book versus the movie. And so in my search, I saw there was a musical, so I was super pumped. I watched it on YouTube, but not the best quality, but I did see it. And like, before I get started getting into like the details, I just want to say I feel like the musical did better staying true to the story, true to the book. But I do think some were rushed because the musical overall was only like an hour, which is nuts for how much happens in the dang book. But I think it stayed true to the book more so than the movie. If you didn't see my video last week on the movie, like, I know it's super long, but watch it because there's so many things that are wrong with it. Like, that was my least favorite movie adaptation of a book that I've ever seen. Like, I was so mad watching it. So without any further ado, let's go into the differences. I kind of compared it both to the book and the movie because that movie is like burned into my brain now and I can't stop thinking about it. Also, I'm a little sick, so sorry if I sound weird. I feel like I sound weird and I keep like sniffling. I work with children, that's why I'm always sick. Without further ado, let's proceed. All right. So, at the very opening, they start with this song that was like a bop. I was like, okay, like, I didn't want to be a hero. I was like, okay. I liked it. I will say some of the songs I did like skip forward through them a little bit because I'm like, duh, 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 duh. But in general, like, if I was there, I would have liked it. But watching it on my phone in my bed, I was like, moving on. But not that first song. That first song was a bop. So anyway, after the opening song, it goes straight into the field trip. And one difference between the book and the musical was that in the musical, when Mr. Brunner was asking the questions about Greek mythology, Mrs. Dodds answered, but in the book, Percy answered. But that just kind of shows Mrs. Dodds knows a lot about the subject, which, I mean, makes sense that she's a Fury. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, my nose itches. I was going to sneeze. No sneezing. Okay, and then they did a lot of the expositional backstory via song, which makes a lot of sense because, like I said, it's not a very long musical. People don't want to sit there all day for musicals. I don't know why. They sit there all day for movies, but whatever. So that made sense. Like, he said he's been kicked out of schools before, and the whole thing about the museum was part of a song. It was about the day he got expelled, and it would have little breaks where they would talk, but it was like a bigger song, so it just kind of helped move things along at a quicker pace. And I was so happy because Nancy Bobofit was in it, which, if you watch my last one, she was not in the movie, which I was bitter about. She's like the bully for Grover's bully. And then I said, wow, he actually killed the Fury with the pen. This is way better than the movie already. In the movie, the Fury just flew off. I was like, okay. But he had his pen and it turned into a sword and he killed the Fury. And then I said, yay, they made him so crazy. And Grover and Mr. Brunner were like, there's no Mrs. Dodds at the school, which is what they did in the book and not what they did in the movie. In the movie, they're like right after Mrs. Dodds flew away, that's the Fury. They're like, okay, we gotta go, like right in front of him, and just like skipped over that whole thing. But in the musical, they're like, what? There's no Mrs. Dodds here, and like they were trying to convince him that he like imagined it, which true to the book, yo. And then I said, oh, they put the blue food in the musical. Like, that was such a small detail of the book, and they even included it. Like, of course, they didn't do the whole backstory, but they were making marshmallows, and then at Montauk, which wasn't even part of the movie, and they were blue marshmallows, and he's like, attention to detail, people. That's how you do it. And then I said, I like the song with Percy and his mom, and she was telling him, like, normal's a myth. Like, there's no such thing as normal. You're perfect the way you are, because he was just saying he wants to be normal. And she, like, listen. She grabbed his face. She's like, normal is a myth. And it was a good song. It was sweet. It showed, like, mother-son connection that I feel like we didn't really have in the first, not the first, just in the movie. Like, that bond, kind of. Okay. And then, yes, another thing that stayed true. This is more like things that are true to the book that weren't true in the movie, if that makes sense. So I was happy Grover interrupted the Montauk trip and the Minotaur was chasing them. That was all pretty accurate, except he never broke off the Minotaur's horn. And then I was excited that Annabeth was there when Percy woke up, and Mr. D was actually in the musical. He did not have a part in the movie at all. They didn't do the whole cabin thing, like where they showed the cabins. They did a walk through the camp, modified, of course, it's a musical. But they didn't show cabins at all or explain that. And I mean, that kind of makes sense because that's a lot of set to build for a musical. And also they were short on time, which I get. And honestly, if you had to cut something, like, you don't really have to see the cabins. Like, they were described in the movie, but you didn't really have to see that. I mean, it was described in the book. And then the movie didn't even do them right. So, movie did them completely wrong. Musical just left them out. Whatever. And then I said, wow, I'm actually amazed by how true to the book this is. I was kind of expecting it to be a musical version of the movie, but it's not. It's a musical version of the book. They skipped the whole bathroom scene with Clarice, but, you know, she was still a character. She was still, like, the same type of character as the book, where in the movie she wasn't there at all. And then I said, so the bathroom scene actually does end up happening, but it's during Capture the Flag. So that's a little different. They merged the two scenes kind of together instead of having him have two scenes where he's showing his water powers or whatever you want to call it. They have just the one, but it's during Capture the Flag, and it helps them win. Annabeth gets the flag. In the movie, Percy got it, and in the book, Luke got it. But in the musical, Annabeth got it, which makes sense because he didn't really know Luke at that moment. But in the musical, there are so many different things I'm trying to keep straight right now. But anyway, so the bathroom scene, instead of getting, like, healed by the water, he uses the water to take out Clarice, basically. And then Poseidon claimed Percy with a symbol in the stars, rather than a symbol above his head. That would have been kind of hard to do in a live musical. Like, someone would have had to come, like, hold something above his head. So instead, like, they just did the lights. They're like, oh, look, there's a trident in the stars. That means you're Poseidon's son. So, I mean, I like that they still included the part of Poseidon claiming him, and they kind of fixed it to something that worked with them, whereas in the movie, they didn't have him claimed at all. The Oracle was in the musical. If you watched my last video, you know how bummed I was that the Oracle was not in it, but she was in this one, so happy Megan. They never explained Grover very well, and by that I mean, like, how he's trying to be a seeker and how he failed his last mission. Later on, they did talk a little bit about how he failed his last mission because they talked about the Thalia tree. But they didn't really clarify that, like, he felt like he was to blame. But again, there was a lot going on in this hour-long musical. I'm just so happy with how true they stayed. Like, honestly, if this was the movie version, and instead of the movie version I saw, I probably would have been a little bit more angry than I am right now. But coming off what I just saw, like, this is gold. Like, whatever. They could do no wrong at this point. They're already better than the movie, so whatever. But yeah, they flew through some of the fight scenes. They did include them, but, like, it was one song and they fought everybody. And then they were, like, already... It showed them fight Medusa pretty well. And then, like, they just flew through the whole traveling part of the book where they go to St. Louis. There's no St. Louis at all in the musical. There is a slight thing with Ares where they talk to him and he gives them the backpack and he just drives them to Las Vegas, which is kind of boring. I was like, how convenient. So, yeah, pretty much they go from Medusa to Las Vegas with, like, no action, really. And then they were at the Lotus Hotel for 0.2 seconds. They're like, Annabeth's like, we can't go to the Lotus Hotel? Haven't you heard of that story? And then they walk in and they're like, hey, you, how long have you been here? And she's like, I got here yesterday in 1939. I'm like, and then they laughed. I was like, okay. So that part could have been done slightly better, or just like take it out, because that was like, if you hadn't read the book and you just saw that, you'd be like, what is going on? Honestly, it probably is, the whole thing is a bit of a mess if you didn't read the book. But as a person who read the book, I really enjoyed the musical. Blah blah blah. So Percy was wearing the flying shoes, as we all know in the book, or as I think we all know, Grover was wearing them in the book. And he almost gets dragged to Tartarus, but in the musical, Percy was wearing them. My nose, I'm sorry. In the movie, I don't think anyone was, like, Tartarus wasn't even a thing. And then it was really funny because Percy's like, what is that place? And Annabeth's like, Tartarus. He's like, tartar sauce. So they added some funny little quips. Some little awkward, like, 12-year-old moments. I feel like they did an accurate portrayal of 12-year-olds, where the movie obviously didn't. They were like 17 in the movie. Anyway, so in the musical, they had a magical seashell that returned them from the underworld. They're like, what's from the water returns from the water. It was a gift from his dad. So that's how they got back, rather than the pearls. He did leave his mom, same as the book. But Hayden's never mentioned his missing helmet. There's a different word for it. I wrote helmet. I don't remember the real word. I'm sick, okay? Excuse me. So that was never a part of it. And then when they resurfaced from the seashell, it said water returns to water. Like, they didn't resurface in California where they went to the underworld. They resurfaced on the other side of the country at Montauk Beach for some reason. I don't know why they changed that. Just make it easy. I don't know. And then they included the fight with Ares, which I was super excited about. The whole Luke reveal was very clearly stated by that. I mean, like, Luke straight out said, like, I'm the bad guy, like, pretty much. Where in the book, like, they figured it out. But Luke was just like, the gods deserve it, blah, 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 blah. And then, so Percy and Annabeth almost kissed at the end too. So, okay. I feel like I skipped some things. I don't know. Overall, I really enjoyed the musical. If you like musicals and you liked the book, I highly suggest watching it. It was only an hour. It was like in 4 parts on YouTube. Very easy. Just Percy Jackson the musical, or I did the Lightning Thief musical. I'll link it below. But I thought it was really enjoyable. Like I said, some parts were really rushed. But I did think it was a pretty accurate portrayal for the amount of time they had. Whoever they are. I don't even know who put on this musical. But I feel like it stayed true to the book. There was a slight viewing of Cerberus, the little dog. So I thought that was fun. And then how they did the water was so funny. They put like leaf blowers with like a toilet paper roll, and so it just flung like toilet paper at the person. They're like, oh, water. So it was just creative how they portrayed everything. You know, there's a lot of action. There's a lot of different scenes. So it was just interesting to see how they did it. They walked through a camp. There were people swinging around on the set and acting like they were shooting arrows. So I feel like it was honestly a pretty low budget for a musical. I don't know if I can say that. Like, they didn't have a lot of props or sets, but what they did with it was really great. And yeah, I was just really impressed. So I'll link it below. I'm not sure if I'm going to do a video next weekend, but next week on the 12th, to all our P.S. I Still Love You comes on Netflix, and I'm going to be on vacation, but you bet I'm going to be watching that, and I'm going to be filming it while I'm on vacation, so stay tuned. You'll definitely see me on the 12th, and maybe before then with something else. I don't know. I want to do Sea of Monsters next. I really do, even though I'm going to hate that movie. So stay tuned either this weekend or on the 12th. Peace and love.